What up YouTube, it's your boy ProfessorStix and I'm back again with another Call of Duty Warzone video. Today we're going to be comparing the Season 3 FARA versus the FFAR. We'll be comparing the stats, looking at the recoil pattern, and I'll be sharing with you the best attachments. Let's find out if the FARA is the new best close range weapon in Warzone. If this is your first time here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I make Warzone tips and tricks videos and I compare the best weapons in Warzone so you can rise to the top. Let's get into it. Now, when we're looking at the weapon stats, the FARA has an ADS speed of 296 milliseconds compared to the FFAR that has an ADS speed of 300 milliseconds. Now, the movement speed is pretty much the same, 4.67 meters per second for the FARA and 4.69 meters per second for the FFAR. The reload speed for the FARA is 3.17 seconds. The FFAR does have a slight edge here. The reload speed comes in at 2.48 seconds. That's a pretty big difference right there. We're going to give the edge to the FFAR. The rate of fire for the FARA is 790 rounds per minute, and the FFAR has a rate of fire of 900 rounds per minute. The rate of fire is pretty impressive, and that kept the TTK pretty low. But since it's been nerfed, we're going to find out how it stacks up against the FARA. Let's take a look at the damage profile. Now, the FARA does 46 damage to the head, which means it's going to take 6 shots to down a fully armored opponent, compared to the FFAR, which now does 40 damage to the head, which means it's going to take 7 shots to down a fully armored opponent. The chest damage for the FARA is 31, which means it's going to take 9 shots to down a fully armored opponent, and the FFAR does 27 damage to the chest, which means it's going to take 10 shots to down a fully armored opponent. Now you can see here that the FARA does take 1 less shot to down a fully armored opponent than the FFAR, and so that's one of the key reasons why the FARA slightly has an edge in terms of the damage profile. Now keep in mind, both of these weapons do have a damage fall off, the FARA coming in at 27 meters and the FFAR coming in at 31 meters. Now let's take a look at the time to kill. The FARA, if you hit all of your headshots, you are going to down a fully armored opponent in 380 milliseconds, compared to the FFAR, which does that in 400 milliseconds now. The FARA, if you hit all of your chest shots, you're going to down a fully armored opponent in 608 milliseconds, compared to the FFAR, which does that in 600 milliseconds. That's just because of the rate of fire. So you can see that the FARA is pretty nasty because it doesn't shoot as fast, but it does kill pretty quickly, and the damage to the head is what makes the biggest difference. Now, if you hit 1 or 2 headshots with the FARA, you are going to down a fully armored opponent in 532 milliseconds. If you hit 3 headshots, you're going to down them in 456 milliseconds, which is going to be a 7 shot to kill. And that's kind of why the FARA is a little bit better than the FFAR, simply because it just takes less shots, and that is good when you're facing multiple opponents. If we look at the FFAR, if you hit 1 or 2 headshots, you're going to down a fully armored opponent in 533 milliseconds. If you hit that 3rd headshot, it's going to take 8 shots to down a fully armored opponent, and you're going to down them in 467 milliseconds. All right, so let's take a look at the recoil pattern. The FARA is on the left and the FFAR is on the right. Now, the particular build that we have here, which is a close range build, the FFAR does have way more vertical recoil. The horizontal recoil is still pretty tight. You can see that S curve there, but the vertical recoil is far more than the FARA. You can see that the FARA has more horizontal recoil, but the vertical recoil is much shorter. So when you're in close combat, the FARA is going to be much easier to control than the FFAR. And so I'm going to give the slight edge to the FARA. Shout out to Raven Software for drastically changing the recoil pattern on the FARA and making it more viable. Let's get into the situational use. The FARA and the FFAR are identical when it comes to situational use. They both excel at that short to mid-range gunfight. The FFAR and the FARA do the same damage at their respective drop-off. What made the FFAR so dominant was its versatility, and the same can be said for the FARA. This is a solid weapon and should give more variety in Warzone. Let's jump right into the attachments. All right, so for the FARA, you're gonna wanna go with the GRU suppressor, the 18.7-inch Spetsnaz RPK barrel. This is equivalent to the Task Force barrel. It's gonna give you that strafe speed, the bullet velocity, and the effective damage range. You don't need to worry about the vertical and the horizontal recoil as we saw earlier. The recoil pattern is very easy to control. You're gonna wanna go with the Spetsnaz 50 round mag, the Serpent Wrap, which is gonna give you that ADS speed time. You're gonna take a hit on the sprint to fire, but you get that back once you put the KGB skeletal stock on, which is going to give you the sprint to fire back, ADS firing move speed, which is going to allow you to strafe while you're firing an ADS, and the aim walking move speed, which is just going to give you more movement overall, which is really good for the FARA. For the FFAR, you're going to want to go with the agency suppressor, the 19.5-inch task force barrel, the 50-round mag, the serpent wrap, which is going to give you ADS speed. You're going to take a hit on the sprint to fire, but you get that back with the Raider stock. You're going to get your sprint to fire, your aim walking movement speed, and your ADS firing movement speed, which is really, really awesome. Both of these weapons close range. You're going to be strafing, moving side to side like a Superman. All right, here are my final thoughts. Looks like we're starting to get what we asked for: balanced weapons and different choices. I personally like the FFAR better. I got used to the recoil and multiple ways to build it. Additionally, it has a faster reload time and rate of fire, so it's a bit more forgiving if you miss a few shots. Ultimately, the FARA and the FFAR have reached a point of preference. It really depends on your playstyle and what you like. That will determine which weapon works for you. That's it for me, guys. As always, make sure you hit that like button and make sure you hit that subscribe button. I am streaming over on Twitch. Link will be in the description below. As always, make sure you drop into Verdansk and frag out. Peace.